Hello, welcome to the Georgia Virtual College Fair. Thank you for joining us for this session this evening. I have a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your cameras and microphones are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. So just sit back, relax, and take in all this great information you're going to hear over the next 45 minutes or so. This is just one of many different sessions happening. Be sure to sign up for additional sessions where you signed up for this one, including some 6x6 college fair presentations on Wednesday and Thursday evening. Also, this presentation is being recorded. It'll be available within about a week, again, at the same website where you registered for this session. I've gotten all the housekeeping stuff out of the way, so I will step out of the way myself and turn it over to our presenters. Again, thank you for joining us.
All right, everybody, welcome. We're super excited that you're here. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen and we'll get started. My name is Taylor King. And I have some colleagues here, Jennifer and Matthew. We'll introduce ourselves in a second, but we're gonna talk about campus visits, both in person and virtual. So again, I'm Taylor King. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at Columbus State University.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Wilmer, and I am a Regional Admissions Counselor for the University of Alabama at Birmingham, or UAB.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I am Jennifer Shaughnessy, and I am a Georgia-based admissions rep for the University of Missouri, located in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, so our presentation today, as Taylor mentioned, we really want to talk about the campus visit experience. We want to talk about some of the best practices that you can use while you're thinking of doing a campus visit. Now, of course, right now that might look different for different schools. We do have a lot of virtual options, and I do know that some schools, of course, have they have opened again for in-person campus tours. So we're going to address both virtual options as well as in-person options. And again, just some of the best practices. We're going to talk about pre-visit, during the visit, and then after the visit. So there's 3 different stages for the campus visit. So I'm going to start off with the pre-visit one. Talking about the schedule. Like I said, there are different options as far as virtual and in-person. If you are going in person, make sure you know what type of restrictions there are right now. These restrictions, because there are different rules and guidelines for best safety practices, it's best to know if you're going in person for a campus tour, what are those health and safety precautions that the university is taking. For the university I work for, there are only 2 people who are allowed to tour at a time, 2 students and their guests, and they have to wear a mask the whole tour. So that's just one example. Each university has their own set of rules and guidelines. That's just one example about mine. One thing also to consider if you're visiting in person are the different time zones. We work for universities, I think with the exception of Taylor, who is in Eastern time, but Jennifer and I, we work for universities that are in different time zones. So if you are driving to my university, for instance, in Birmingham, then you are going to be in a different time zone. You're going to go back an hour. So just keep that in mind. No matter which university or college you might want to attend a campus visit for, keep in mind that the time zones can be different. That either can be in your favor if you show up an hour early, or it could be different depending on what your situation is. There are also different types of group visits. You can have your main group visit, so that is with lots of other different people, or like I said, depending on what the safety practice is for that university, how many people it might be, or there are one-on-one tours that you can do. So that's more personalized. That is going to be very specific just to you and what your experience is. So it's definitely important to know what type of visit options there are for the different schools and universities. And then also meeting with different academic departments. That can be academic departments or just departments in general, whether it's financial aid, whether it's scholarships. if there's academic success center that you might want to meet with. There's all different types of departments that you can meet with students or meet with representatives on campus. If you are doing it virtually, then a lot of different schools and universities now have appointments that you can make to meet virtually with the representative from those different departments. So again, it's important to know the different options that you have at the different schools. If you want to meet with someone in an academic department of interest, or if there's a specialty department that you want to meet with somebody. And prepare for your visit. Prepare for the meeting that you're going to have. Do some research on the different universities. Included in that research is, the population of the school or university that you're interested in, the different programs that they offer, the different majors, and just, what is the school all about? What is their specialty? What are they known for? What type of research opportunities or internships do they have? So just do your research. Come up with some good questions. Back long time ago, back in the day, when I was a tour guide myself for the college that I went to, some of my very best tours that I gave were from the families that asked a lot of different questions. That's because that ensures that you have a really good campus visit experience and that it's tailored to you. So the goal is that you leave the campus with no questions unanswered. So come up with some really good questions so that you can engage in good conversation, whether it's with a student tour guide, or if it's with an admissions representative that you might get to meet with in person. Same thing for virtual. If you're scheduling a virtual appointment with an admissions counselor or with a representative, make sure that you have some good questions so that you can really maximize your time. And then also traveling to campus. If you're going to go do an in-person campus tour, the accommodations, if you are going local or if you decide to go somewhere where you're going to need an overnight accommodation, what type of hotels are in the area, what is the city like that's around you, all those different things kind of come into play as well. The surrounding area and traffic. The city that my university is located in, we just went through about a year's worth of construction on some of the roads around our campus, especially some of the bridges on the interstates leading into the city. And so we always had to tell our visitors, please make sure you factor in time for traffic. So you don't want to miss your tour, definitely, if you're driving there for a campus tour. So make sure you factor in. And as we all are here in Atlanta, we all know Atlanta traffic anyways. So we should be used to that by now by factoring in extra time for traffic. But that's just something to keep in mind. Also, another thing is when you're planning ahead, look for other colleges that you can visit in that surrounding area or along the way. A lot of times when you're driving to different colleges or universities, more than likely you're going to pass at least one or two more on the way there, depending on that location, especially if it's in a city. What other different colleges or universities are in that area? So again, maximize your travel, maximize the time that you have, and do that research about what other, if you know the geographical area that you might want to be in, do a little bit of research to see what other colleges or universities are in the area that you can also go visit, maybe another school the same day. Or if you're going to do that overnight accommodation, what can you go visit the next day? And then also ask for suggestions. I love it when my students ask me, what is your favorite place to eat while you're in town? Or what is your favorite place to stay? If you have to have an overnight accommodation in the city, or what are your favorite things to do within the city? Or what is your favorite part about UAB that maybe I should ask to see if it's not on the tour or something along those lines? So I love it. I actually have a guide of restaurants that I like to give my students so that they aren't just eating at some chain restaurant when they go to town. I always try to encourage them to get a taste of the local flavor of the city that they're in. So definitely, as your admissions counselors, that is what we're there for. We're there to be a resource for you, especially through this planning period. So definitely take advantage of the areas that we know so that you really can get the full campus experience. So that is for my slide right here. That's all that I have. I just want to ask my colleagues if they have anything else to add.
No, I think that was great. The one thing that I think a lot of students and families are surprised by is when we talk about, suggestions for other colleges to visit. Um, Hopefully you guys all like knowing that we actually are friends behind the scenes too. We all like each other and we like each other's colleges and universities. And so we believe that our job is to help you to find the best fit. And so if you want help from us, it's not just about our individual colleges and universities. We really are trying to help you to maximize your time and effort that you're putting into your search. So I know that sounds ridiculous saying that we'll help you to come up with that plan, but we do that all the time. We're happy to recommend what else to do in the area, but also other campuses that you might check out too. Cool. So we will dive right into then during the visit. So what's going to happen while you're on the campus, how to best prepare for that visit as well. So as part of that preparation, so Matt was talking about doing your research, and along with that, you also want to make sure that you're prepared for what you're even going to be doing when you're on the campus. You don't want to be that student who is surprised when you check in for your visit and realize you have an agenda for the day, and maybe you have some meetings on there and you were not prepared for that. And so you want to make sure that you know in advance what that schedule is going to look like. That's where it's also helpful to make sure, in looking over that schedule, we want you to make sure that everything is included that you're interested in. So if you see something missing on that schedule, we want to know about that in advance. As long as we have plenty of advance notice, we can make just about any accommodation within reason, any accommodation as part of your visit and that time on campus. But if you just get to campus and you get your schedule and think, oh, wait a minute, this isn't at all what I wanted, and I actually want some meetings with faculty, I want to sit in on some classes, chances are we can't just make those last minute accommodations for you. And so whether you're traveling a short distance or a long distance, I think that's really important, just getting to know that schedule and making sure that it looks good for you as well. As part of that preparation, you can do this in advance and also when you get to the area of that campus, but make sure you know where you're going. It sounds like a simple concept, but not just get to the campus. I think sometimes there's the idea that, oh, I put in the campus address, so I'm good to go. You may not know where you are going, which building your meeting is in, where to park. Do you need a parking pass? You just want to be prepared for all of those things as well. So, again, no matter what the size of a campus is, that can be really stressful and overwhelming if you get to a campus and realize you have no idea where you're supposed to go now. You can't just hope to run into somebody who's going to help you to give directions. You want to make sure that you're planning in advance for that. So where you're parking, where that at least that first meeting is, and then make sure that you're going to have a map with you for the day if you're going to have meetings in multiple buildings. Our campuses will certainly give you those things, but it's always a good idea to look over those so you're not rushing last minute for those. Being early is part of that. So planning in advance. So I know some students, you certainly don't have to do this, but I had a student tell me the other day that she did this, so it was fresh on my mind. But she got to the area the night before coming to visit our campus and just drove to campus so that she knew where she was going to be parking and where the building was for her first meeting. So that way it was fresh in her mind. So when she got up the next morning, she kind of knew where she was going, and that felt a little bit better. So something like that, or just getting into the area a little bit early to make sure you're not that person that's running into the room. And that's okay. We're certainly not judging students, but I know there's anxiety involved in this process and you don't want to be rushing into the room late. and missing out on any information. So just make sure that you're nice and early and plan ahead. If you're lost or you know that you're running behind, absolutely call. That's okay. It happens, but sometimes it's nice to give a heads up so that the campus representatives can be watching out for you too. I would say too, just as part of that preparation, just to echo again what Matt was saying, please use us as a resource. So, as an example, saying be early. How early? How much time should I allow? The parking that's recommended, is that the best parking? Does it fill up by a certain time? Or what level of the parking garage do I park on? We get those questions all the time, and we are here as a resource. So don't be shy about asking those questions as part of that preparation too. So be presentable. This is kind of a balanced one because we are big believers in you being yourself. We want you to be authentic and be yourselves. We'll kind of put the little asterisk with that maybe it's just make sure it's the polished version of yourselves. You don't want to just roll out of bed and not think about anything and come in groggy, and you want to make sure that it's a little bit polished version, whether that's in person or virtually. You just want to make sure that you're a little bit prepared. For me, I have to have that coffee before my first visit. So no matter what, I build in that extra time to make sure I've got coffee in my system and I can start with that first presentation. So whatever that is for you. Students, as part of being presentable, please do not wear other colleges' gear, hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts. I don't care what it is. It's not going to leave the best impression when you're on a college campus or even virtually. So yes, you may be, and we certainly know this, you're going to be big fans of other colleges out there. That is okay. We probably just don't want to see that when you're visiting with us, whether it's virtually or in person. So just be mindful of that. On the flip side, I will say you do not have to do this, but I always really love it. If you do happen to be a big fan of our schools and you want to wear a t-shirt from our schools as part of a presentation, that's awesome. But if it's another school, probably not leaving the best impression. These, again, are not things that we're not going to deny you if you do that, but it's one of the many things that you can do at the end of this process. You can step back and say, you know what, I did everything that I could. I let them know that I was interested. I applied on time, all of those checked boxes. That's one of those little things that you can feel good as long as you are presentable as well. If it is a virtual setting, please make sure that you have an appropriate background. Generally speaking, I've heard a few different representatives on panels say, just don't have a meeting just don't be in your bedroom, basically. It's just not a good setting. I will say this, there are a lot of situations where students, maybe your bedroom really is the only space that you have that's okay for meetings. You can still make sure that you are presentable and that it's an appropriate setting. So just make sure that your surroundings, we can see what's on your side table. We can see what is around you, all of those things. Please be mindful of those. Each of us on this panel has stories about what has not been appropriate. So I'll just leave it at that and say that we don't like that. We make sure that it's an appropriate surrounding that you're in as well. And then being engaged, what does that mean? So obviously pay attention. It's another nice way that you can show that you're interested. In these webinar settings, obviously it's a little bit tough because we don't see your faces and, that's a little bit different, but a lot of times with in-person and a lot of the virtual presentations you're in, we may be able to see you, and you just want to make sure that you're paying attention. Try to put your phones away. It's so distracting when we are giving a presentation, whether it's in person or virtual, and you can tell students really aren't paying attention. They're on their phones. Just set aside this time, put your phones away, pay attention. It's a nice way to, again, to put your best foot forward too. Again, the webinar is not a good example of this, but when you have the opportunity to have your cameras on, it's a really great way just to be present. We know that sometimes you're in a tough situation where maybe you just can't have your camera on, or if it's not working, just let us know. I think it's a nice courtesy sometimes, just to hear from students if they pop in and say, so sorry, my camera's not on, it's technology isn't working, or I'm not in the best environment to have my camera on. Just let us know. And I think it's a nice courtesy. And especially if you're going to have those one-on-ones, think about departmental meetings. And if you're meeting with faculty, the faculty don't want to meet with just a blank screen. They want to see you and have that as genuine as possible of an interaction that you can have virtually, but they want it to be face-to-face. In person, make sure that you stay engaged, absolutely. And again, keep in mind that all of these appointments are just opportunities to show that you are genuinely interested, and not just in the university, but in a specific program too. Part of that is asking questions. This doesn't mean that you have to really struggle to come up with a question asked just for the sake of putting a question out there. But keep in mind too that that is a way for you to make sure that it's a fulfilling experience. And again, yet another way to show that you're interested by asking questions that go beyond just the general information that a quick Google search might show you. But just show that you've put in some effort on the back end with that research, with your college search experience, and make sure that that comes through too. Taylor and Matt, I'll let you chime in.
I would say one thing to be aware of, especially right now, and this is a little bit of pre-visit and also during visit, is the requirement of mask and then the number of guests that you're allowed to bring. During most normal times, of course, masks are not a thing, and typically we allow for students, prospective students, to come onto campus with quite a few guests, but many colleges now are limiting that. And so be very mindful of that. The more people we have, the harder it is for us to adequately social distance you from one another. And while we love having you as our guest, we do have people who are here, every day. And so we want to find the safest way possible to administer our campus tours and keep our campus communities as safe as possible.
Yeah, no, one other thing that I would add is, of course, if you are scheduling a meeting, if you can't do any of these virtual tours, of course, or if you can't do any of the in-person, definitely, or if you can, definitely just be that engaged part. Like, that is definitely one thing. If you can find your own personalized way to be engaged, whatever that might mean for you, but definitely the pay attention, the eye contact, and the ask questions. That's kind of my favorite part of this slide. And Jen did a great job of going over all of that. So that's a great one.
You just reminded me, sorry, one last thing that I'll add into that as Taylor goes into the next section, but make sure too, if you cannot attend a visit that you have scheduled, please let us know. It's always a nice way just to be courteous. And on our end, we are responsible for doing that too. College reps, you better show up if we have a visit scheduled. And students, it's the same thing. If you're not able to attend a visit that you've registered for, it's just a nice courtesy. And it leaves a good impression if you reach out to us and let us know that you can no longer attend and you would like to reschedule.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to talk about post-visit and what you need to do after you're done with that on-campus visit or that virtual meeting that you've had. So with all the information that you've gathered, everything that you've seen or everything that you've talked about with your admissions counselor, with a tour guide, with whoever it may be, with your notes, write down your list of pros and cons. It's great to have a notebook where you can do this, just a 3-ring binder, or if you're really technologically advanced, not really technologically advanced, but when you use technology, create a folder where you can type in all this stuff and go over the pros and cons of each college and university, because as you visit and talk with more and more, some of that information can become convoluted and can run together. And so you may look back and think, oh, well, this is the campus that I really like because of, their dining hall, but in fact, it was another college. So they do all start to blend together, especially if you're doing multiple in a short amount of time. So make those notes and really very thoughtfully and organize those very well for each college that you visit. It will help you later on when you're helping to get that final determination of where you're going to school. Think about your reactions to campus. What was your initial reaction like? It was really cool. I was going out of town this past weekend. I got to drive by where I went to school, and it made me think back to my initial reactions and that first gut feeling that I had to seeing campus compared to what my expectations were. I'm looking back a long time, almost 20 years. So, thinking of, golly, this is not when I was driving there. I was wondering how could anyone want to go to school so far away in such a rural place. But then when I got there, I just instantly fell in love. And my initial reactions to campus were just like, I knew this is where I wanted to spend the next few years of my life. So write those down and really just help make that determination a lot easier if you can recreate those initial reactions to campus. And as you do your campus tour, think of things, like, is the campus clean? Is this where I see myself? Is this a place where I'm going to be able to succeed? Am I able to make friends here? What kind of environment is this? All those things are so important. Again, to the location. Is this a town or a city that I want to be in where I can see myself being successful? Are there things for me to do, things I'm going to be interested in? Because this is a lot more than just your education. This is where you're going to be living and spending your time and making new friends. If you are really into the outdoors, do you want to go into a university that's located in a really urban area, vice versa? So those things are really important because it's going to be, the outside environment is just as much going to play a part of how happy you are and how successful you're going to be, as much as what you're doing on campus and academically as well. So again, do you see yourself there? And I talk to students all the time, and it's an unbelievable feeling when you find the place where you want to go, because you'll eventually start ranking your schools as you are writing down the information about them before visits. And for so many students, a 4 will become a 1 and a 1 will become a 5. You'll have these initial thoughts of, oh, this is, when you're reading about a school, talking with the admissions counselor, like, oh, I know this is where I want to go. And you're going to visit, and that may not be where you want to go once you get there. It may be a lot different than the picture that you painted in your own mind. And so it's a really, really cool feeling. You just kind of know. It's this feeling in your gut, this very just instinctively thing of knowing where you want to go and, like, this is where I'm going to be successful. And find a way to make that happen, which is really cool. It's also important to send a thank you note if you can. It's not required to do so. I'll tell you, it makes us feel like we're doing our job pretty well when we get those thank you notes after we've talked with a student or done a presentation. It just adds a little bit more. We meet hundreds of students, if not thousands of students each year. And so it really will help you stand out. We do the best we can to try to remember everybody. But the more you ask questions and the more engaged you are, the more likely it is that we're going to remember you. So I write notes on students that I meet, with information, and I'm sure Matt do to try to remember as best we can. But really make yourself stand out. And one way to do that is by sending that thank you note. Do the same thing with the campus tour guide. And you may not remember their, you're probably not going to know their address, but you can write it, their name down and send a thank you note to the school's admissions office, and they can deliver that note, or you can send it by email. A lot of time, if you ask to connect with one of our tour guides, they'll connect with you on social media. They'll give you their cell phone number or their office number because they want to stay connected with you as well. So if you meet someone you have a great connection with, go ahead and start creating that relationship, because that could be someone that you could be friends with when you come to campus, or somebody that you can connect with and help you, get involved on campus or whatever it may be. They'll show you the ins and the outs when you get there. So, when you have a follow-up meeting with your admissions rep, Share your thoughts about the campus tour, not just all the good things. Share some of those things that you thought could have been better, things that you wish you had seen that weren't on the tour. Whatever it may be, we want to make our experiences as best as possible for our students. And the only way that we can do that is with feedback from you guys. We are constantly critiquing ourselves and changing the information to keep it the most up to date and the most current. But again, we're not the consumer, you guys are. And so the more you can let us know how we can better serve you, the more we'll be able to do it more effectively. So definitely keep that in mind and help us help you guys better. Schedule a follow-up visit. You know, just because you've done a large group visit to campus doesn't mean you can't come back. It doesn't mean you can't have a meeting with a faculty member within a department or attend class. Some of that stuff is going to be hard to do right now because of COVID, but you can do that virtually as well. So if you want to connect with a faculty member or follow up or attend class, it's easier for us to be able to schedule you to attend class virtually a lot of the time than it is in person, just because of time conflict and making sure there's enough seats. Right now, we're trying to social distance in classrooms. So getting you into that classroom setting in person may be difficult, but that's where using technology to our advantage is going to help us help you a lot easier than it would have been back in the spring or before. So, but schedule those more detailed follow-ups. We want to see you back on our campuses, even if you're unsure, because it may come down to one or two colleges that you're deciding, 1, 2, 3 colleges that you're deciding between. If it's multiple colleges, follow back up, see more things, meet more people. If it's the same exact thing over and over and over, try to get, use those questions to get more definitive answers or get more in depth. That's really important. Meet with your rep. We're here to serve you guys. We don't want just to be a one-time connection where we talk with you at a fair and then we don't hear from you again until you're about ready to enroll. We want to talk with you throughout the process. We're going to know so much information, and I hate to say this, but I feel like admissions counselors are underutilized in a sense because we have so much information about scholarships and which professors to take, or we can find out so much information, which was the best level of the residence hall to live in. I mean, there's so many critical things that you may not be thinking about, or you may want to know information for that you're like, oh, well, that's just my admissions person. They probably just know the enrollment process. We know a lot more, and if we don't know, we definitely know the people to connect you to. So utilize us, definitely utilize us. Reach out, schedule those follow-up meetings. We're glad. You do not ever feel like you're bothering us, ever. Promise you, you're not. We love to hear from you. So we know that the way you want to get information is different. So for a lot of us, we have, not just our office phone and emails, but we have text numbers. We have ways to connect through social media. So utilize whatever is most comfortable to you. If there's a way that's most comfortable to you that we do not utilize, let us know so we can find a way to connect in whichever way you prefer. Again, meet with current students, meet with alumni. It can be more than just the tour guide that you met with on campus or virtually. We can connect you with club and organization leaders. We can connect you with Greek life people. We want to connect you with what you're most interested in, whether you're a student athlete or you want to be involved in, I don't know, just some really rare major or club or organization. We're going to find a way to connect you with those current students and the alumni. I promise you, if you think admissions people love to talk about the school a lot, alumni love to talk about it more, and they'll give you real information. They're going to love their experience, and then you'll be able to see where you can end up after you graduate from our institution. So definitely utilize us and let us connect you to those people. And again, meet with the departments and the support centers. So many colleges have support centers, whether it's tutoring or writing labs, places for accommodation and access. Meet with those people, see what kind of resources are available for you, and resources that are going to be paid for through your student fees. If you have dietary restrictions, you can meet with the people in the dining hall so you can talk about, what kind of services are offered, how we can best accommodate you. There's so many different things that you may not be thinking over. You may be hesitant to ask us, but let us help you connect to those people. All right, so we will move on. I think I nailed it. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add?
No, you're right. You nailed it.
Oh, perfect. All right, now we're going to talk about the actual tour.
Yeah, so for this slide, we each get to take a portion of this. And so this slide really talking about the tour. This is things to look for and to observe while you're actually on the tour. And so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is what to look for. I think Taylor, what he just said in his presentation just now in his portion of it, is that that gut feeling that you have. That was one thing that when I was your age and when I was going on campus tours, and I walked onto the campus where I eventually attended, then I just had that gut feeling. I just knew. I had visit. It was actually the very last school that I toured. I had toured all these other schools. This was the last one, and it just clicked. So with the overall feel of campus, that's kind of how I'm tying in with that is with the overall feel, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like that is your home for the next 4 years? Do you feel like that is just the overall welcoming sense that you get? Are you welcomed by, what type of welcome did you receive while there? How just as the vibe of the campus, things like that. So just the overall feel is something to really tune into and pay attention to. Also, the size of the campus. I thought that I wanted one size, and in reality, I actually really wanted the other size. It was given to me, encouraged by my guidance counselor, that I really, while looking at different schools to tour, I should give myself options. And part of that was the different sizes of colleges and universities. So it was the small, the mid-size, and the large. I thought that I wanted one size, and I took a tour of that one, and then I gave myself the options of a different mindset of going to another one that was the complete opposite, and that's actually the one that I fell in love with the most. So definitely don't limit yourself. Give yourself, but if you know for sure, the size of the campus, actually go there in person and see it for yourself, just to be sure. Also with the facilities, this is one thing too. What's important to you as far as facilities go? And this can be a huge range, right? This can be from your resident hall for where you're going to be living to the rec center. If you are interested in partaking in anything, any workout resources or anything like that, what's the rec center like? With the academic side, what are the classrooms like? And of course, one of the most important ones, the dining halls. You got to eat. So, what are the dining halls like? So definitely take a look at all the facilities and see if it lines up really with what you're looking for. Because again, this is going to be your home for the next 4 years. So you definitely want to make sure that it's going to offer you the resources, whether that is research, academics, whatever it might be. See if it aligns with really what you're interested in. I will say that as we talked about earlier with some of the restrictions for campus tours, that might look different right now. I know for the university that I work for, we do not allow tours to actually go inside the students' resident halls anymore, but we do have those virtual options where you can take a look at all of the different resident halls online. That's just some best safety practices that my university has put into place. So again, if you can't see something on campus right now, definitely ask if they have a virtual option where you can see that online. A lot of times they have, like for resident halls, there's the floor plans that are posted online too. So definitely, pay attention to all that as well. And then also the students. I encourage students to go on tours if they can take off during the week, or if you have a weekday like holiday break or something like that. Try to go during the week so that you actually see what the campus is like on an operating business day, like an operating classroom day. The students walking around campus, or if you want to see it on the weekends, what are the weekends like on campus? So definitely, if diversity is really important to you, how diverse is the student population? Looking at the students, how do they communicate with each other on campus? In the student center, what does the student center look like? What are the opportunities and resources offered for the students? So that's, I think just one of the most important things too.
I will actually throw this out there just in case there are other students going through this. But again, this was a while ago going through my college search process too. But my experience was a little bit different than Taylor and Matt. And I'll be honest, I didn't have that feeling, that gut feeling that everyone kept talking about, which made me panic because then I thought I hadn't found the right school. I think in my experience, I found a couple campuses that I really loved. And I definitely visited some schools that I knew right away weren't for me. So I knew it wasn't just a problem with my gut reaction to things. It was just that I really fell in love with certain parts of a couple different campuses. And so please also, students, don't panic if you don't have that magical experience where you step foot on campus and the sun is out and everything is clear. You know exactly where you should be. You might not have that exact experience, but what I will say is after I took some time, went through my pros and cons, talked with my family, thought about what was the very best fit for me, I absolutely found the best school. But please don't panic if it doesn't happen immediately. It might take a little bit of time too. So just to support my fellow overthinkers out there, you're going to be okay and you're not going to make a bad decision either. So moving on also to the point about talking with students, your tour guide is such a good resource. You have a lot of face-to-face and individualized time with that person and their current student. So please have questions ready for your tour guide, and not just those, like those softball questions about what's wonderful here. I want you to talk to the tour guides and say, okay, really, what's some of the things that you struggle with? If you could change anything about the campus, what would it be and why? And really dive into their reactions. And no college in the world is going to be perfect for any one student, for all students. It just doesn't exist. There are going to be pros and cons. Your job is to figure out if those pros and cons line up with what's important to you, and that will help you too. Once you have that list, once you've had these conversations, I would also add in, please talk with your parents or guardians about this process too. I know my pro con list looked very different than especially my mom's. I still remember that, and we had to have some conversations about that. But I loved her insight too, and it's really important to make sure that you're on the same page with that too.
And just make note again of the city that you're in, the surrounding area, the people there, where is the campus located, that kind of stuff. But we think that you guys are going to do a great job. It's very different than what anyone else has ever gone through in the college search process. The seniors of last year kind of got the tail end of it, but you guys are doing this entire thing brand new, and it's very unprecedented. So we just wish you luck and let us know how we can help you, because it's a very different time. It's a very different time for us as well. We've never had to do this when recruiting and talking with students. So be patient with us, and we'll be patient with you, and we'll all get there, y'all. We will all get there. So I think we're almost out of time as well. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat and we will answer those. If you do not, thank you so much for attending. We hope you learned a little bit. If you need anything, just let one of us know. You can most certainly find our information on our respective college admissions websites.
And I will reiterate saying thank you to everyone who attended this session, and I also want to obviously thank our presenters for sharing that great information. And when you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this is just one of many sessions being hosted, not just today, but also Wednesday and Thursday evening. Be sure to sign up for additional sessions at the same website where you signed up for this one, gaprobe.org/students. And you can find up to 50 different sessions for each having 6 different colleges and institutions, a total of 160 colleges and universities presenting. So those sessions are available Wednesday night and Thursday night. Again, gaprobe.org/students, the same place where you registered for this session. Also, in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording, as well as all of the other session recordings, again, at the same website. Once again, want to thank our presenters for presenting during the session, and thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your Monday.